Welcome to Trauma and Transcendence, where healing meets awakening. I'm Amanda M. Dodd, your guide on this transformative journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Let's transcend together. Hello, soulful seekers. Welcome back to Trauma and Transcendence. Today I've got a special guest. You know it. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Before we begin, as you are hearing this, as always, I will be in the soul cave. And this time it'll be Journey to the Higher Self, which I told you a little bit about last week, where I'm kind of taking some of Dolores's quantum healing and bringing it into a group to help people bridge the gap. If that calls to you and you can't make the group session, you know how to find me, and we can do it one-on-one and help you have that journey. Otherwise, on April 4th, will be past life regression in group, just a standard to know your origins, where you come from and why you are the way that you are. April 5th is virtual mediumship development, and it is clear your channel. So if you've had a hard time with that, I'm going to do a really thorough, deep hypnotherapeutic meditation to get your channels open, flowing, and going. And then, of course, if we can, we'll have time for a little bit of practice as a group. Come meet your people. That is everything I am up to in the next little bit. So let me tell you about today's special guest. Today, I'm so excited to have Daron Royal with us. Now, hopefully you've been checking out the blog and you've read his incredible post, because Daron's got incredible offerings coming up and you're not going to want to miss this. Daron is an energy alchemist, a medical intuitive, a medium, a pranic and quantum healer, Reiki master, but what we're going to be focusing on today is a sin eater empath. Do you know what a sin eater is? I didn't. So we're going to find out. What you need to know most is Daron is a multifaceted healer, blending ancient wisdom with modern techniques to facilitate profound transformations. So, with a diverse skill set, let's welcome Daron to Trauma and Transcendence.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate being here, and I'm so grateful for this. The team and I are very thankful for you having us on so we can talk about our stuff.
It's such a pleasure. We've crossed paths a couple of times at different events and fairs, and it's never long enough to really sit and see what all we have in common and the things we don't.
Yeah, this is actually the
So
first
thank you
time
for
we've
being
actually
here.
got to sit down together and actually talk.
Yeah, I know, because we both carry these crazy schedules.
That's a good thing,
Yeah.
though. It's the more people we get to help, the better.
Absolutely. It's such an honor and a pleasure and a gift, and I'm so grateful. I know somewhere 16-year-old me is still just wildly cheering of, yeah, we did it. We did all the weird.
Oh,
I get to do it
absolutely.
every day.
Yep.
So what was that like for you? What got you started? If 16-year-old you was asking or excited or responding to your life now,
Right.
what would that be like?
Well, if we want to talk about the entire journey, let's go back to 2-year-old me and started off normal like all the other clairvoyants and empaths of the world. I was seeing spirits when I was little and had to learn how to deal with that. Back then, there was nobody that would help. It was basically frowned upon talking about anything, so had to deal with everything on my own. My mom was a medical
Did you
intuitive.
try?
Did I
Oh,
try?
so your mom had that ability. Did you try to tell anybody? I didn't. I didn't tell a soul. I
I would
kept it to
mainly
myself.
talk with my mother about it, but her standard answer was, well,
Yeah.
if you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Well, that's completely wrong.
Okay.
Thanks, Mom. I learned that
Yeah,
one the
that's
hard
not
way.
accurate.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Some of my gifts started to surface when I was in college, but with peer pressure and the public the way it is, I kind of squashed those. I identified back then as what I would call arc empath. and anything paranormal I came across, I would
Mm.
fight and battle kind of thing, which was actually training for
I
now.
love that. I would actually like to hear more about the arc empath so that if someone is out there and they have a sense of that, what would be some of the things they could identify within themselves?
Seeing the
Like just a
spirits
couple
all the
of bullet
time.
points of.
Yeah. Okay. So an empath, let's just go empath general, is somebody that's clairsentient. And
Yeah.
what that means is they can
Yeah.
feel, see, hear energy, interact. Um, some of the empaths are actually starting to be like the sin eater empaths, where they're a filter for the collective and they will pull energy into them. Normally, you can transmute it, you're fine. But if you can't transmute it and you haven't learned how to do that yet, if you're in a crowd of people, you're overwhelmed, somebody's yelling at you, that sticks to you.
Mm.
And a lot of that energy we
Yeah.
carry around on us isn't even our energy, it's other people's energy. And if we don't ground that down off, you can actually become physically ill. It will manifest in a physical illness.
Yeah.
So, as an arc empath, as I called it, I'd have spirits grab me, try to push me downstairs. There was a lot of stuff I dealt with, and I didn't know why. Well, now I know why. It's because the path that I'm on, the darkness was already trying to squash my light way back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I
gotten
can
bigger and
identify
badder,
with
but
that.
now I can handle it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
So,
definitely identify with that. There were a couple of unexplained things in childhood. So I've heard from various people that archangels don't intervene unless we ask. And I had to call BS because I wouldn't be here had Archangel Metatron not intervened when I was about 2.
okay.
I was almost not here. And I didn't ask for that. So I don't think that is necessarily true for all of us for some reason. What's your thought on that? Did you have like
Oh,
intervention early
okay.
before asking?
Well, I just got two things from my team on that for you. Either one of your team asked them for help, and then they came in and helped,
Mm,
or your 5D
okay.
asked them for help to protect
Okay.
your 2-year-old 3D self. So
Okay.
there was asking for help, but they will help. I'm not a big fan of that. You have to ask them for help. I do give them permission a
Yeah.
lot to work on
Fair
me
enough.
and stuff like that. And like I know my DNA changed when I went through my awakening. It's more alien stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I could feel that happening at night. And I asked for a lot of that. A lot of my
Hmm.
gifts, I can't tell if they're past life or if I'm manifesting stuff. It's hard to
Or
know the
both.
difference.
Or a
Okay,
blend
where
of the
does that
two.
start and where does that end? You know,
Yeah.
it's all about intent and manifestation. Did that help answer your question? I think.
Definitely. Definitely. And I like that. I like that approach because it wasn't something I had considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
um,
you were aware of being the arc empath.
right.
What
That's
did
that's
that
just what
mean?
I
What did
called
that
it,
look
kind of
like?
thing.
Yeah.
It's
No, but I
just
love that.
I, I wouldn't run from it. I'd go after it and try to get a hold of it and chase it down and push it out and just I
Okay.
wasn't afraid of it. And
So how old were you during that time?
that was probably 20s, 30s, 40s kind of thing.
Okay.
And then it started to switch over to the healing part when I went through my big awakening in 2019. I
Hmm.
was going through a divorce. I was homeless. I was at a
Mm.
job with a narcissist who actually ended up getting me fired by making up stuff. So I had the towers, the dark night of the soul, all wrapped up and together. And I lifted something
Yep, that's
heavy
the
at work.
empath starter kit.
Oh yeah. And I lifted something heavy at work the one day, and I felt something in my
Yeah.
head pop. And I know
Mm.
it was my pineal gland decalcifying instantly. So I went in,
Oh.
I called it a Kundalini. I don't even know if it was Kundalini.
Yeah.
It was an awful, awful awakening where for 2 weeks it felt like my skin was ripping apart and I was trying to contain a
Mm.
star that was exploding and my energy was off the chart.
Mm. That's very shamanic in nature too.
Yeah.
When I began some of my shamanic work, the first journey I had was actually what they call the dismemberment journey. So there's like an initiation that can happen for some people as they begin, where they actually see or have like a small death. So
Okay.
when you're talking about that skin
Oh,
ripping apart sensation,
if
it's like, oh, that is a very shamanic,
it
yeah,
felt that
very
way. I had
shamanic
to take cold
experience.
showers just to cool down my energy and all that. And
Yeah.
if I was out and about in public, if I focused on somebody's eyes for more than 2 seconds,
Mm,
psychic diarrhea started coming out of my mouth and I couldn't stop it. And I
mm,
was reading their whole
yeah.
life story. And that's very
Yeah.
invasive. So a good thing that only lasted a couple
Yeah.
weeks because then I could control it a little bit. And
So you
that's
really
where,
awokened your channeling in that moment.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
tons. And that's where the healing stuff all turned on. And that's where the chi started to flow. And my, at this point, I'll just go at this point. At this point, my hands glow during the sessions and stuff. You, they just glow naturally. And it looks like there's little white tracers next to them. And I'm starting to have like an energetic atmosphere around myself where you can see little orbs
How do
and stuff
you
going.
how do you explain what a tracer is?
Okay, from what I can tell, from what my team has told me, it's something interdimensional. When I move my hands, it looks like there's a ghost hand behind my hand or like a jet stream. Also, another good way to describe this, when I do energy sessions, I have quote unquote angels that come in and work with me. I know they're little
Mhm,
white aliens. They're called the little whites. They're galactic healers. For the longest time,
mhm,
I called them galactic healers, and then somebody that was clairvoyant said they don't want to be called that. I'm like, what?
mm,
They said they want to be called angels. Okay,
mm, mhm.
whatever. We'll call you whatever you want. Who knows what an angel really looks like? But these little whites, when they
Mhm.
come in to help, they actually astral in, and I can
Yeah.
see their hands moving, like bits and pieces of them, but it's the same thing. It's like if you took and made a white outline of somebody's hand and then made it kind of ghostly, that's what I see moving. But I also have that on my hands. And
So is it
it's,
within your energetic body, your blueprint, your aura, or is it something like overlays over top?
I would say overlays, and it's interdimensional.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of these, like
Yeah.
parasites that I pull, when I pull them, we're pulling them from other dimensions and other timelines and other lives. There's a gift I have. I call it energetic telekinesis. I can actually pull from
Mhm,
people. And there's when
mhm.
I do a full body one, there's times where we've seen the table and the person's body shift out in that white light, that white lines, and then go back in. If anybody
Yeah.
can explain to me what that is, I know it's quantum physics mixed with
Mhm.
interdimensional stuff. That's all I know.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff, I know how
Okay.
to do it. I just don't know what it is because I've been self taught
Okay.
for a lot of it.
So to close the loop, how would you define the differences between the arc empath and a regular empath?
Oh, okay. For me,
And then
arc
also
empath is,
separation for sin eater, which is where we're going.
yeah, okay. So you got your regular empath, overwhelmed by everybody's energy, fearing going out in public, um,
Yeah.
just not having a good time with it. They think it's a curse. That's your normal empath. For me, an arc
Mhm.
empath, you're starting to feel it as a superpower kind of thing, like a gift, and I would use it for
Yeah.
battle. But that was
Okay.
training for being a sin eater empath. Now, a sin eater empath, I would kind of say is like a Heyoka, but I consider Heyoka more Native
Okay.
American, that kind of theme. but I'm not a Native American this life. So we're going to go with Sin Eater, which is more Scotland, England, Wales, Celtic magic kind of thing. A Sin Eater is a super strong empath that knows how to transmute energy. So that when you pull that energy in, it doesn't affect you. You actually flip it, ground a bunch of it down out, and then give positive back to the client. That includes disease, negative energy. Up and when you get strong enough, you can actually eat spirits, pull in entities, demonic stuff. So
as you
it's
talk about
building.
that, what I sense is almost like a black hole, and it can just consume and transmute.
Okay.
Whereas when you're talking about the arc empath, that feels different. You can feel like a
Yep.
bulwark around it, and it's more of an offensive, protective. Are the
Almost like a
things
dark
that you
empath
would
kind of thing.
are maybe are
Yeah.
the things that you would encounter as an arc empath different from a sin eater? So when you say you were going to battle, were you battling different things, similar things? Was there some crossover?
It's crossover. It was almost training for me being a Sin Eater empath. Shadow people, duendes, spirits.
Can you explain that one?
Which one would you like?
I know shadow people. I've encountered them. I've battled a few of my own. The second one wasn't something I'm familiar
A
with.
duende is a Spanish goblin, basically. You see a lot of videos of them on the Paranormal Caught on Camera. Look like a white pasty body, kind of almost like a house elf, but more goblin looking in the face. Sometimes they have like the white diaper kind of cloth wrapped around. They're
Where did they
basically
come from?
they're basically a gremlin. They're an elemental, and all they do is cause mischief and turmoil and chaos. And the one I was dealing with at one of the places I worked at, he would actually get down in your lungs and make you cough and do, if you were tired and stuff like that. So this was all training because he got into my lungs one day. It took me 3 days to get him out. But then later, a couple of years ago, I was at an event at a haunted place, and one of the spirits tried to jump in me, and I instantly popped it right out. And that was training. I knew how to deal with that. So all this stuff I've done in my past is coming to surface now. And that's how I went from being the arc empath, the battle guy, to being more the healer and being the sin eater. And using all that experience to help people. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'm actually designing some classes. I will never teach anybody Reiki. I'm not going to teach anybody that. I'm going to teach people how to transmute the energy and enhance their Reiki, enhance being an empath, to go from being the victim to using it as a gift kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that I think is going to help a lot of people.
Do you have a name for it yet, so people know what to watch
just
for?
energy alchemy. That's all I'm calling it. Energy alchemy, because that's all it is. I don't want to offend people, but my team does not like the word Reiki. This stuff has existed from the dawn of time, and it's just energy transmutation, energy alchemy. And some guy in Japan designed some symbols, put a name to it, and that's how everybody knows what it is. It's just energy work. And I'm more rogue, I would say. So, but that's my path, and that's what I need to be doing, because I am starting to handle the tougher, harder cases. I do have other healers sending me clients that can't get the stuff out, and I'm on my way to being an exorcist, and my team's saying a demon eater. So I hope they're right. I hope I can help people that way.
So in that timeline that we were looking at, you moved into the healer. What was that phase like for you? Just so that if there are people out there going through this and they haven't identified it, that they can
Oh,
start to see themselves through your story.
very lonely. I was put in hermit mode, just like most of the people going through their spiritual awakening. You're almost torn down to nothing. It's I like the analogy of a butterfly. You know, when they're in the chrysalis, they basically go down to mush, and then they
Yeah.
come out with their wings and all that. Well, the spiritual awakening is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
The universe takes and squishes you down to nothing, down to the usually like a dark night of the soul. It's a low point. A lot of people, your gifts will start to turn on. Those things don't come with any instructions. So if you
No.
can't, you got to find a mentor to help you. If you can't, you're on your own. Luckily, my team taught me a lot of my stuff, and I started remembering it from past lives. So
Yeah.
there was stuff I was doing psychic surgery before I even took my level 1 Reiki. So there's stuff I already knew or they were telling me. And for me,
Yeah.
I got lucky and did my level 1 and level 2 right before lockdown. I
Oh,
got fired from my job by a
okay.
narcissist. I was getting
Yeah.
unemployment money, which is great. That was a gift. Thank you. So I got to sit in my apartment for a year and just play with energy. And my team was telling me, hey, try this, see what this feels like. And that's how this all started.
When, because I've heard you reference your team a lot, when did that relationship begin and start to develop?
Oh, about a year before the big wake up, the big awakening. Started with a couple guides. Um, there was a Native American white feather. I still don't
Mhm.
know what he was. He was the main one. And then my main protectors started surfacing, and that's why I'm wearing my shirt today. I his nickname is Venom. For the
Mhm.
longest time, I thought he was my 5D and came up out of me and handled
Yeah.
stuff and then went back in. Because anytime I walked into a haunted building, my stuff got big, and I thought it was him coming out and coming back in. Well, I later figured out he's a guy that's been with me since one of my early lives. He and I had a life together. I'm pretty sure we are Alpha Draconian for that life.
Okay. Yeah.
Because just to give people a visual, he's about 8 foot tall. If you can kind of sense the body build or envision the body build of a werewolf, only with
Mhm.
no skin, it's more reptilian, no hair. It's got
So are we
rough skin.
talking similar to the Marvel version or the DC
Similar,
version? I can't
almost
remember which
similar.
one he is. Yeah.
Instead of a werewolf
Okay.
face, he has like an alien or a mantis face, and then he has dragon
Oh,
wings.
okay.
And the best we can figure out, he's an Alpha Draconian mixed with mantis and an Anunnaki. He's like a hybrid, and he's pretty bad. Um, he's about as scary as a demon, if not an early form of a demon. They've
Yeah.
called him a first one and an early elemental,
Okay.
but he's my main
Elemental would make
protector.
a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it started with those guys, and then everybody else came in. And it's just, I have stuff that you wouldn't believe somebody would have. Those duendes
Yeah.
we were talking about, I have duendes on my team. Aliens, angels, archangels, goddesses. Of course, you know, God, universe, source, Jesus, everybody. But then I got a dinosaur. I got a short-faced bear from the prehistoric age.
Huh.
Fae. I got fairies,
Yeah.
elves, just the whole dragons. I love my dragons. My dragons are awesome. So
And
all
do
that
they
stuff
work?
plays in. And wolves. I got a lot of
Yeah.
wolves with me.
Do they work in unison? Do they each have different roles?
They
What
each
is
have
that
different
like?
roles. Like when I
Okay.
set up to do an energy session, right around the table, it's only the little whites. That's all.
Hmm.
Even people's um, loved ones and ancestors not allowed near the table. They get bumped out.
Hmm.
Then around that, there's a ring of like fae that protect and keep. Because I've had dark spirits try to come into my sessions and all that, and they get bounced out. And then I got a big wolf that looks like Fenrir that runs around the house and cleans up negative energy. Especially if there's a parasite involved, it'll go pick up all the seeds and stuff that are around the house. I got a guy that rides through on a horseback, cutting negative energy with a sword. People have seen all this stuff, clairvoyance. And it's just neat to know that you have that support system around you when you're doing like the energy work and all that.
As you were talking about the one on horseback, I was seeing like Sleepy Hollow.
He looks just like that. And when he comes through,
that's what I was feeling.
It's at full gallop. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And the lady's like, that was a guy on horseback slicing the air with a sword. I'm like, okay.
Complete
And
with cape.
I guess there's a giant that stands and watches my things, and like all you can see is his foot in the room.
Oh my goodness, like a stone golem kind of.
Now, when I first started in the early days, there was a master that would stand in the corner of the room, and I knew he was a master, one of the sages, and he was watching to see what I was doing. Especially if I had a young girl on the table.
Is he one from like the Akashic records, like an ascended master from the records,
absolutely,
or
ascended
something
master.
Beyond?
Never said a word. Okay. Just stood there stoic, just making sure everything's on the up and up. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like a chaperone. And people saw, like, I could always feel him, but other people would see him. And they're like, who's standing in the corner? I'm like, that's just the master. Just ignore him. So we've actually caught a lot of that stuff on video. And I need to get a better camera so I can get better video of it. Mainly my hands glowing and all that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Have you started to compile a place for these? Like, do you have a YouTube or something where you're
I have a YouTube where I have
events?
a couple things. I only have my Facebook business page at this point. I am going to do a website. I've been waiting for the dust to settle because my stuff has been changing so much. I wanted to know where I was kind of going with this, and I kind of have that now. So I think I'm going to do my website finally and start getting a lot of mine's been word of mouth. I do a lot of the paranormal psychic fairs. I love the paranormal fairs in a haunted place. Oh, that's my favorite because I get to play with all the stuff in there also.
Yeah.
So
haven't done it yet, and I think the temptation for me to clear it would be too big.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't stand it when people go into places and they agitate the energy and then they leave and they don't, and that's not me. So maybe that's why I've never gone, because I would clear it and it would just be done.
I've actually had to promise to a lot of these owners that I will not eat everything into place as I pass it.
That's right. Because they don't want it cleared, because
they don't want it cleared, but
it's an opportunity for them. That's right.
I tell them straight up, if something attacks me, I will take it out, because you don't want something that attacks me. And that has happened. I've been attacked, and I can feel it come on me, and that's probably the worst choice the spirit could make, because I have tentacles, I have things on my back that reach out like pinchers and hold them. And then if they try to get off me, Venom steps in and he pushes them against me and holds them there.
Yeah.
Until they get transmuted.
Back. So we had some interference, but ain't nothing going to keep these light workers down.
That's right.
Welcome back.
It's not the first time at the rodeo with these things trying to block us and trying to keep us from saying what we're going to say and helping other people find the light and all that good stuff.
That's right. All right, Daron, where do you want to take us on the journey next?
I think we should, since we're going to be talking about Sin Eater empaths, I think we should go back and do a little history on the real Sin Eaters kind of thing. mainly because it's just a neat kind of way to look at things. And there seems to be a lot of stigma that I hear from people when I say the word sin eater empath, and they don't know what that is. And
Yeah.
there's a little fear there. And I just want to give some education kind of thing. So back in the late 1600s, sin eating resurfaced. I do believe it has like pagan origins, but the church, the church and pagans, they didn't like that kind of stuff. So this practice resurfaces around the 1680s and it goes to the late 1880s. Um, what the what sin eating was, when somebody passed away, they would have, normally a poor person was a sin eater. They'd have the person come in and they'd have bread, and at the start they had ale, beer. They would either place it on the body or hand it over the body to the sin eater so that the sin eater could eat the bread, drink the beer, and absorb the sins of the deceased. A lot of the times this happened when somebody died real fast and they couldn't get last rites, or if it was a non-religious person. Everybody just wants to have a chance to go to heaven without their sins. The church frowned upon this, and a lot of places it was illegal. But it was a necessary, I wouldn't say necessary evil, because a lot of times it was looked at as it saved society from the negative impacts of sin.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like save the village. There was a saying that a lot of the sin eaters used, and I'm going to read that for everybody. I give easement and rest now to thee, dear man. Come not down the lane, nor in our meadows. And for thy peace I pawn my own soul. Amen. So with that statement, it clearly, not only are they working on the sin, but at that time point, they thought the dead walked around. And they were literally trying to keep them from walking down the lane or in their meadows. They were trying to keep the village free of the dead, basically.
Is it unfair to say that they might have been the mediums of old, just avoiding an earthbound situation?
That would be a good way to look at it. I would say a lot of them were empaths, even themselves, because there was a thought back then. The Saint Eaters were shunned. Like, they were the pariah. Nobody knew who they were. They weren't talked to. A lot of them were hermits. They were shunned so much that they would burn the utensils the wooden utensils that they would use, they'd burn them after. Okay? One of the theories is they were shunned because people thought the more sin that they took in, the darker they become. That's not an incorrect statement. We're going to get into it when we get into sin eater empaths. But there is a fact that if you pull in darkness, if you don't take care of that, you don't transmute it, you can become unbalanced and you can go a little dark side sometimes. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the empath
I was going to
part.
ask, how can someone identify that for themselves?
For me, it was really easy. I could tell I was unbalanced. The first time I pulled on a demonic cord, for about an hour and a half, I was pretty unbalanced afterwards. It just didn't feel right. Felt sick, sick to my stomach. And I went out, and I know a grounding technique with trees, and it took 3 big trees. Another good example. I kind of wanted to save these for, I would just go ahead.
Okay, no, it's okay. You can save them.
Let's save this next one. We'll talk about that when we start talking about the sin eater empath part of that. These sin eaters are in books and stories. There's actually a popular movie from, I think it's 2003 maybe. It's called The Order with Heath Ledger. And there's a magical sin eater in that, and it talks about the secret society, because supposedly there was a secret society of these guys too. So that's just a good example. This was also seen, I think, in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt. And it only became like out again when the Protestant era started in the 1680s. The last known sin eater was a guy named Richard Munslow, died in 1906. He was a farmer. He was well respected in his community. So he doesn't fit the profile of what a sin eater usually was. Usually they were the poor people because it was a free meal and a little bit of money for these people. But for him, he was well respected. We do, general consensus is he did it as an act of kindness because he lost three of his four children in 1 week.
Wow.
To disease, whoever knows right there. Now, we know that to be a dark night of the soul, huge awakening kind of thing that this guy probably went through. And he was trying to clean up the whole sins of the village just because his children passed. So it kind of dies out there as a practice. And it's because we don't interact with our dead anymore. Usually they used to be displayed in a home, but now they're displayed at a funeral home. They're displayed away from the home. Somebody else takes care of them. Somebody else does all that. That used to be on the family. So the practice itself just kind of died out, is what everybody thinks. There's not a lot of information on this. You really have to dig to find stuff on sin eaters, just because a lot of that stuff was squashed by the church.
Yeah.
They'd rather have a priest come in and do the last rites. But I think it's led into like our wakes where we have food and drink, and it's almost like everybody takes on the sin for the past.
Yeah.
So it becomes more of a celebration that way with all the people.
Yeah. See, they had the term sin eater back then, but I bet they didn't have the term empath.
No, I highly doubt they had the term empath. But if
And
you're
so it never
absorbing
really went
sin,
away.
yeah.
It
I
just
mean,
changed. It just
to me,
transmuted and came out again.
yeah. To me, the greatest sin eater empath of all time would be Jesus. Same concept kind of thing. I don't know, whatever people's views on that is, but I have a lot of views on Jesus, and we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into sin eater empaths. Basically, it's just the name. It's the same concept. Sin eaters took the sin. Sin eater empaths take the negative energy. Almost the same thing. So you're talking pain, trauma, anything like that. Some good examples of sin eaters in media. If you've ever seen the movie The Green Mile with Tom Hanks, there's a character in there called John Coffey. Okay? Pulls the illness out of people, transmutes it inside him, and it comes out his mouth as flies. There's also another movie that I like. It's called Harmony, and it's called Absolution, depending on where you find it. It's about a sin eater empath that pulls fear from people. They call it super empath, but it's literally a sin eater empath. And then she uses water to cleanse herself. But it's a good visual. Because they do really good with the effects. That might be me any given day of
the week.
Huh? Yeah.
Literally, they said that might be me any day of the week because part of my self-care ritual is probably half a bag of Epsom salt in my big soaker tub, and I will do that before or after working with clients.
Oh, you gotta ground.
Yeah.
Two of the things I like to tell new empaths or people that are just waking up to this, there's the main thing an empath has to learn first before you can do anything else is what's your stuff and what's other people's stuff. Yeah. Once you figure that out, that's half your battle. There was multiple times I ended up in the emergency room thinking I was having a heart attack, and it was somebody else's anxiety attack that was literally pulling in.
Literally, that was how I figured out I was an empath. Yep. I was working in a money mart. I was probably about 22 or 23 years old. And I was having a great time interacting, like with my coworkers, interacting with the clients. We're just having fun dancing to the music. And all of a sudden, I can feel a shift. My heart starts to palpitate and I can't breathe. And then this anxiety and panic comes over me. And I'm looking around and I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm just really losing it. I'm losing my mind here, going crazy. And then I see a little Asian man come in. Now, this is downtown Calgary. And in the winter, it gets so cold and it's so dry that people who come from other parts, sometimes their nasal passages actually feel the shock of that, that really dry cold. He comes in and he hunches over and he's on the bench, and we had to call 911 for him. And that moment I looked at him and I'm like, this isn't mine. This is you.
Oh no.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, how can I help now? But that was that
Yep.
moment of realization for me.
That's the first thing that
Yeah.
you have to learn. I was mowing lawn a couple of years ago. Nice sunny day. I was happy. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I was just mad, just
Mm.
super angry. And I stopped. I'm like, well, that's not mine. Where's that coming from? And I had a couple friends at the time. They're super sensitive, lived in different parts of the different states and stuff. Hey, what's going on with you right now? And they're like, I'm mad. I'm like, are you outside? And they're like, yeah, I'm outside. So something in the collective was going around to everybody. And it only took me a couple minutes to figure out that, okay, that's not mine. It's something going on. You learn to feel these subtleties in your own body. And if you know yourself well enough, you can tell it's somebody else.
Yeah. It's
And
similar.
once you figure that out, oh, that's your battle right there. I was
Yeah.
driving on the
It's
highway one
similar.
time and no cars anywhere near me. And all of a sudden it felt like I was going to pass out.
Mm.
And I collected myself. I'm like, what's going on? And I could see this car up on the curve about half a mile from me. And all of a sudden they went
Mm.
off the road and came
Mm.
back on. And I'm like, it's
Mm.
that person's. They got something going on. So
It's
anytime
similar
I
to
see
when
an
I
ambulance
teach.
at a place, and I fear
Yeah.
going by because I would feel that as I was going by. But
Mm.
that's one of your first signs that you're an empath,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it's scary when it happens the first few times. You get up to like 100, 500,000 times, it's kind of easier, you know.
Mm.
Um, that's the
When I
thing with the
teach
sin
my
eaters.
mediums in development, I actually teach them the same technique of form your baseline, know what you're feeling, meet your needs first before you go into the reading. Because anything that happens in the shift is then part of the reading. That's part of spirit coming through, but you got to have your
Yep.
baseline first.
Oh, absolutely. Um, a lot of people say the healers got to heal themselves first. Doesn't mean 100%.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever 100% healed. So
No.
as long as you think you're good enough to take,
Yeah.
because you got to be ready to take a hit. I,
Mm.
a couple of years ago, I stopped drinking alcohol because
Mm.
I don't know when I'm going to have to take that hit. Because
Mm.
there's been a lot of times demons have went after my friends standing next to me, and my team will
Mm.
push them onto me instead because
Mm.
they know I can take the hit.
Yeah.
I will step in between that if I see it coming or feel it. But my team has absolutely pushed stuff on me. I know they have. They told me they have.
Mm.
Because it's better I take it than somebody else takes it.
Mm.
And I love that I can do that for people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when I first started doing this, since it's so different, and I would talk to some old school people, and I would say I pull the stuff into me, well, their first reaction is like, oh, never pull other people's energy into you. That's not good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's actually a limiting belief.
Mm.
It's kind of correct a little bit at the same time, but
Well, I mean,
you
for
don't
those
know what
people, they
people
don't
are
have the
capable
skills.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you got to get past that mindset. You got to get past the limiting belief. And for empaths to switch this over, it's a switch that you got to flip in your mind. You're not being
Mm.
overwhelmed with that energy. You're getting free energy to you. And once you can flip that, oh man, that's when you start to take off. And that's when we'll start teaching people.
Mm.
Now, when I first started, I did take my lumps. Absolutely took my lumps. If I was working on a client that had a headache and I pulled their headache, I got their headache. We had this friend group, and we were out at their camp one night, and there's about 12 people sitting around a fire. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I got a headache, I got a headache. It's not my headache, it's not my headache. I pause the discussion. I'm like, whoever has a headache, raise your hand. 2 people raised their hand. I'm like, can somebody give these guys some headache medicine? I don't want to feel their headache anymore. So that's how it kind of starts. You start to feel other people's pain. If I pulled somebody that had back pain, I got back pain. But it didn't last very long. It was until my body can transmute it. I'm probably about 1,700 sessions in. I'm pretty sure I can transmute it at this point. And it flips a lot faster now. It's almost instantaneous. I actually feel like I'm a HEPA filter for the collective. And you used the word black hole. That couldn't be more concise. It feels like I'm a black hole for negative energy, and I flip it to positive. Now, we all get messages. I even got this message as a kid. And you can't go around telling people this because you sound crazy. But I've been told all my life that I'm the son of God. Well, we're all the sons of God. Christ conscious society kind of thing. But I'm not going around to tell everybody I'm Jesus. Put me in the loony bin kind of thing. Just a while ago, I finally figured out what it meant. I am the son of God. S-U-N. I'm like a sun source, like a black hole that pulls in all that negative energy. So it's like a little miniature sun. And my energy is big. I know my energy is big. And it triggers a whole bunch of stuff with people, catalysts and all that. But I like that analogy because I actually carry flames around myself. And I can feel that negative energy come in, get mixed in that, and just go out as positive. So it's a great feeling to have once you get to that level.
Yeah.
And it takes some time, it takes some practice to get that level.
What were some of the things that helped you do that?
Faith. Oh, they're big on faith and gratitude. Practice. I play with energy all the time. Now, if you want to go down the weird stuff, I've developed what I call energetic tentacles on my hands, my arms, all over my body. I don't know if they're the nadis that stick out further, but I can feel them move on their own, and they help me gather negative energy. Almost like I always picture a sea anemone with the fingers, or like the whale's teeth, and they help pull energy in. I've developed what I call energetic patagium. It's like I'm a flying squirrel or a bat, and I have a cape, but it's more solid of those things, and that pulls energy in. And then I also have wings. I used to think they were black angel wings, but now I see them more as dragon wings, like venoms, like my protectors. All of that is designed to help me pull negative energy from people. It's weird. I think it's stuff from other lifetimes, other planets and all that. But I think it's my design also. Now, going back to what we discussed before, did I have that in past lives? Did I have that on other planets? Or am I manifesting that?
Or a mix of both?
Or a mix of all. Because the main thing I'm going after now is the energetic parasites in people. These things have tentacles. Well, if you're going to go after something with tentacles, shouldn't you have tentacles yourself? So what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, sure. How does someone begin to identify if they might have an energetic parasite?
Oh, that's a good one. Anybody can have these. They come in when your psychic shield is down a little bit, So anything like drugs, alcohol, even grief, anxieties, anything that opens you up to letting your psychic shield down, these things will come in. Now, I've also seen that the shadow people, succubi, want to go demonic, they actually use these things as weapons and throw them at people and release them on them. Now, I've had to do a lot of this research on my own because there's not a lot of stuff out there on parasites, energetic parasites. What I've seen so far is there's 4 different types. There's one that looks like about the size of a water spider, and it just looks like a black orb in people. There's another type that's about 6 or 8 inches long, and it looks like a cross between a snake and a slug. And these things run.
Yeah.
These things run in people. The ones I see mainly is the person is going to have like a slug on the back of their neck and shoulders. So they're going to have back pain. They're going to have neck pain. They're going to have limited rotation in their neck. And then it puts tentacles down in. So they're going to have a bloated feeling in their abdomen, hip pain, lower back pain, sometimes rib and chest pain. And then these things, if you've ever seen an earwig bug where it has the 2 little prongs, they put 2 little prongs up and they oppress. Mm-hmm. So there's foggy brain. There's times of like blackout where you can't remember stuff. Poor decisions. The main thing is you're always tired because these things are energy vampires. Mm-hmm. So all they do is just suck your energy.
Yeah.
So that's the signs. Some people can actually feel these things moving in them too. That's a huge sign. Yeah. If you got little weird things moving around, more likely it's an energetic parasite.
So in the soul-centered healing hypnosis training I took, she also talks about how there are nests sometimes. Have you encountered any of those?
A nest?
Yeah. So it can be a nest of spiders, sometimes it's a nest of snakes, and it's like a collection. But I think she still qualifies as being under parasitic attachments.
I have not encountered a nest yet.
Okay.
We have seen
I was wondering.
We have seen a demon walk up into somebody's kitchen, open up its robe, and like hundreds of these things fly out. And I did have a client.
So that's accurate, and that's the way that she explains that is a nest will often be a signifier that there is a dark force or a demonic entity attached.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, I've kind of seen a nest.
So you saw one.
I had a client that had a portal of some sort in them, and the things were coming out of the portal.
Yes.
Would that qualify as a nest? Okay.
It can. Yeah, it can. But I want to say it's also different. So not every nest will have a portal.
Okay.
But
that's good to know.
And that's also a signifier of a dark force entity or a demonic entity because they create that to have more minions, to get more juice, right?
Now with that client, I think it was a curse because there was like writing on her bones. Like I could see writing on her bones, and we're still working on that. Something about I got to scrub her bones off and then put angels sigils on them instead. So a lot of this stuff is trial and error because there's a lot of new stuff coming out that people have not seen before or not seen in a long time. All last summer, we were seeing not only shadow people, but we were seeing wraiths. I never saw a wraith, and all of a sudden I see one flying across the parking lot at the bar we're sitting at. I'm like, what the heck's going on around here? You know?
Yeah.
It's like the dark is taking a big swing.
Yeah.
And we can feel that.
I haven't seen a
dark
wraith.
And light's always going back and forth.
Yeah. I haven't seen a wraith, but there was a couple of times when I saw a ghoul, and that was just it makes your skin crawl, like the movement of them. And have you ever seen a ghoul?
I do not think I've seen a ghoul.
So It's hard to explain, but they kind of hunch their posture down and they kind of bend their knees in like a seated, so the knees are outward, and they kind of crawl with the front two arms and the legs just kind of stay back, almost like a frog, but
Oh,
larger, shadowy. And it's got this, it's just the movement of watching it. My stepson came home with one once after a visitation. He went to bed and his behavior was a little off.
oh,
And I thought, I
okay.
don't know what that's about. So he went to bed, and all of a sudden I see this thing crawling up the wall, and I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like,
Yep.
no, we're not playing today. But the movement of it was just, oh, some of these things are, sends chills
Almost,
down your spine. It was,
it almost sounds like a
mild enough.
rake. That almost sounds like a rake.
I've seen videos of rakes.
Yep.
I would say the rakes are taller, and the
Okay.
ghouls are a little more, they've got this weird flexibility. It's got like a hoppiness to it. But also that crawling sensation and going
Hmm.
up like the ceiling. And it was just like, oh, gross.
Now, another thing I was seeing a whole bunch last year, maybe somebody knows what these things
Mm,
are. It would look like eels or snakes swimming in the air around me.
that's a nest.
Is that what a
Yes.
nest is? Oh,
Yeah. So they're
that
not,
explains a whole bunch.
there are some that are very much internal. Yeah, you've encountered things and we just have different terminologies for
Just
them.
different term. It literally looked like a
Yeah.
bunch of eels swimming around me in the air.
Yeah.
Like they
Some
can't
people
come
have
in. Like,
jellyfish. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
You know what we were seeing a lot last year? We were seeing
Yeah.
oh shoot, I just lost their name. We call them not deer.
Not
And
deer.
not deer, wendigos. And
Okay.
we were seeing skinwalkers. I didn't see any, but I
Mm.
had clients that were calling me like, hey, there's this weird thing standing out in the yard by the tree line. Doesn't
Oh.
look right. I'm like, don't let it in.
Mm-hmm.
Put salt down on your door, don't let it in.
Boundaries. Boundaries. Yeah.
Yep. So
No,
we were seeing a
thankfully I've
lot of
never
that last
encountered that.
summer. Yeah. That's kind of cool
Yeah.
that that's a nest. That explains a whole lot.
Yeah. And
Because,
also, so there's an interesting thing happening right now where there's a lot of things in TV and on media about skinwalkers. There's like that show, Skinwalker Ranch, and so all of these things,
yep.
they're like perpetuating in culture as well at this time. I don't think that's accidental.
No,
Yeah.
no. Is that making it a tulpa? Or is that just because it's
Mhm.
more out there, more people are talking about it? Um, I
Bit of
think
both.
as the planet ascends, and
Yeah.
we are ascending, people are going
Mhm.
through huge shifts right now. So if your life's in turmoil, guess what? You're ascending.
Mm.
Um, I think the darkness is taking a swing, like fighting back a little
Mhm.
bit because it knows it's losing
Yeah.
ground.
I've encountered more spirit releasement practitioners now than ever before. And like you said, you feel your path is going that way too. You're going by
Yep.
exorcist, but it's the same work at the end of the day. But I've seen a call for more of them now than ever before. And even my work is getting into that direction. I don't have as much of a call for it, but there
Hmm.
was still the call to say, you need to implement these things now. And it was like, okay. So I
Yep.
know that it's already there, and when the time comes, I have that. But I've noticed more now than ever before. Yeah.
And more people are waking up now than ever before. I would
Yeah.
say 75% of my clients are first timers. And I love
Yeah.
that. I love when I get a first timer on my table because I know their mind's going to be blown.
Yeah.
Because not only heat comes out of my hands, I got cold that comes out. And they can
Mhm.
actually feel like my energy fingers digging around in them and when I'm doing the psychic
Yes.
surgery. And a lot of my stuff is visual too. It comes
Yeah.
out like it looks like smoke and people watching can see the hand glowing and it's just cool. You know, there's no other
It
way to
sounds
say
like
it.
you. It sounds like you have some physical mediumship ability there.
Yeah. Uh, I I
And
pretty
then
much
the other
have
thing
every
is
gift across the board, just a little bit of
yeah.
everything. And
And
it'll
the other
turn
thing
on
is
when it
then
needs it.
they're being well taken care of, that they're not going to have to go several places before they find their answers or some resolution.
I love that we can do that for people. That's abs and
Yeah.
it's nice knowing that that can play in and I can shift on the fly, and my team's right there talking to me, and if I miss something, they're telling me something. And
Yeah.
like, okay, like a normal Reiki person, I shouldn't say normal Reiki person, but a lot of times when somebody's channeling, they can't talk. So a lot of people's Reiki sessions are nice. They're calm, they're quiet. It's just nice energy flow. Me, I'm chatty Cathy. I'm talking the whole time. Because it's like breathing to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like pulling stuff out, flicking it around the room, and people ask me, well, don't you worry about this going into somebody else if they're in the room, like watching? I'm like, no. My team actually puts up like psychic walls, and this stuff will bounce around the wall until it comes into me. We've actually heard it hit like a window, trying to get away and then come back. Oh,
Yeah.
I
That's that
wish I could
physical
get a lot of
mediumship
this stuff on
phenomenon.
video. You know, it'd be cool to have it all on video. So Sin Eater empaths, they're basically energy vampires. I'm an energy vampire, the good kind. An energy vampire that's a bad kind, they can't make their own energy, so they feed off other people's positive energy. We all know
We've
our
all felt
energy
those.
vampires in our
Yeah.
lives. If you're an empath, you're going to go through your narcissist training.
Yeah.
Oh, God help you. God bless you. You know, we all have our narcissists. They're energy vampires. But the Sin Eater empath is an energy vampire with a twist. We only go after the negative stuff. And I don't know how my body targets that, but it targets it. It's very selective what it pulls from what it's designed. One of the neat things when I'm working on a client, and I have my right hand's my pulling hand. And if I have my hand over the area and I'm pulling, depending on how dark it is, you can actually see my fingers and my hand and my arm turn black. Now, I don't think they actually turn black. I think what happens is as it's pulling it up through the tentacles turn black. So it looks like my hand turned black. And people will freak out. Like, dude, your arm is black. I'm like, well, you just let me know when it comes back to normal color. And they're like, a couple minutes later, they're like, it's back to normal color. How did you know it was going to do that? I said, as it's pulling the stuff, it changes color, then it goes back. Now, for me, my energy body handles most of it. If it's something heavier, I can actually feel it go into the wings in the back and gets transmuted there. If it's more than they can handle, people have seen portals open up on the side of me. Like they look like crystalline water, and it'll go in there. And for me, anything demonic, I have a golden channel that kind of connects to my head and my shoulders and goes directly to the source.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know all this stuff's going on. I can feel it. Other people have seen it. But it's amazing how this stuff, we are limitless beings. Absolutely limitless beings.
We really are, and we're really not taught that. It's very suppressed, and that's a shame because we have so much that can happen, and so easily.
It's so suppressed. I like to use that word. You know, they want to keep us dumb, going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home, watching TV.
Enslaved.
We're about to all wake up, kind of thing. Now, with a Sin Eater, with my gifts, it helps. It clears past trauma, pain, mental illness. Actually kind of gives your soul a reset sometimes. Cords, karma, curses, all this is pulled. Negative entities, past life traumas come up, attachments, illness, regret, sadness, anxiety, and even it's going to be some demon stuff. I just love that we can help people with that. I still have the day job. That's going to go away, I think, pretty soon.
Yeah, I
Somehow,
think
for
as more
me,
people awaken, they're looking
yeah,
for their answers, they're looking for
well,
solutions, they're looking for that support. And when we're readily out there, then it's easier for them to get that, to find that.
mhm. My team has told me from the start not to compete with anybody that's another healer.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need.
Mm-hmm.
We're all supposed to be helping each other. There's going to be
Yeah.
plenty of clients for everybody because we're going to,
Mm-hmm.
like, everybody's waking up. They send me songs. They send me this one song, Glorious. It's
Mm-hmm.
about how we're all just an instrument in a symphony together. And that was a
Yeah.
perfect picture
Mm-hmm.
for me. So you're going to get your people. I'm going to get my people.
Can't.
So right from the beginning on these parasites, um, I didn't know what they were for the longest time. I was hitting them in people, just like parts of it, and couldn't figure out what it was. So I was working on a couple clients, and I told my team, I said, hey, I got to have a way to pull these things out. I didn't know how to do it. So somebody came to me the next day and said, hey, have you heard this podcast? They talk about your parasite things. So I went and listened to this parasite thing. That person told pretty much the basics of how to do it. I talked to the team, figured out how my technique is. And right from that point, I said, you know what? I'm going to get a few of these under my belt, and I'm going to start teaching other healers how to take these things out.
Yeah.
And I kind of, my mind said, when I hit 100 of these parasites, I'm going to start teaching it. I'm at 80 right now, right around
Mm-hmm.
80.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be giving a talk here in May at my first place where I'm going to start teaching people how to take these things out.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
I've had to learn their tricks, and they do come up with tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get used to you, they'll start trying to do stuff. Like they'll break off a piece of their tentacle and leave it. They'll drop an egg in somebody. So you got to clean up those things. For healers, the main thing that I found that was a trigger for me knowing this person had a parasite, their
Mm-hmm.
thighs are full of negative energy.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
that's for the healers out there. If you can hear energy and your person's thigh is full of negative energy, they probably have a parasite. Because
Mm.
they take those bottom tentacles and they put them down into the person's thigh and they kind of anchor and they fill it with their own bile and negative energy. So it's like literally like a telephone pole anchored. And that was the
Yeah.
thing. For the longest time, I was hearing people's thighs being full of stuff and had no reason, no idea why. Well, once everything clicked in, that was one of the telltale signs that somebody had one of the big parasites in them. So I'm looking forward to teaching people how to take those things out. Because again, we're all
So
supposed to be
when
helping
you're
each other.
Yeah. So when you're teaching, are these going to be primarily in person? Will there be virtual opportunities?
It'll probably be in person at certain places. Once I get my website up, I'm going to start doing some of my classes virtual, and they can just sign in and pay for a class and go through it. Right now, I like to do most of my classes in person. I am offering them
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one with people, and currently I have 3 classes, and I'm working on 2 more. I have a class on empath empowerment. It's your basic 101 class. I have a class on spiritual awakenings and how to manage and how to survive those. And then I have a class on just clairsentience senses, or clairs and gifts and stuff like that. The 2 classes I'm working on is the energy alchemy one, and then it's going to be the parasite removal and attachment removal class. Again, I'm not going to teach Reiki. I'm not going to teach any of that. There's plenty of Reiki people out there. I'll give you some
Yeah.
leads to some good people to learn Reiki from. I'm going to teach you how to do the
So
other stuff.
Yeah. Who's the ideal person to come and take which class? Like, do any have requirements, or is there a foundation of insight or experience that you want for certain levels?
No,
Okay.
I always start people off with the empath class. That's literally like the beginner class.
Okay.
And then spiritual awakening and the psychic class, you can go back and forth. I would like to have everybody take the empath class first. There
Yeah.
is some
Okay.
stuff to go back and forth between, but I think I am going to set up different levels and start with the empath class
Yeah,
and to
because
go
I,
from
I would
there.
imagine that walking into energy alchemy would be a lot
Oh,
for someone who's new off the boat.
you know, I talk a little bit of the
Surprise,
crazy
Kundalini
stuff in my
awakening.
empath class. I talk a lot of
Yeah,
the crazy stuff. We basically talked about a lot of the transmutation that I talk
yeah.
about. I go into more details and stuff like that. Um,
What is something you would advise an empath who's going through things? What are some basic things you would recommend for them to just manage their own energy? So if someone's out there, they're having a really tough time, they're one of those empaths taking it all in. What are some basic, like, daily psychic hygiene things you'd recommend?
there's two things I recommend when you first start out.
Mhm.
Crystals are a good tool.
Yeah.
If you're going to go buy crystals, do not just go buy the pretty ones. And I know how
Mhm.
everybody is. We walk into a crystal shop, look down the pretty sparkly ones. That's what we're all drawn to.
Yeah.
Empaths, you want anything that's black. You
Yeah.
want the stones that are going to draw the negative energy away from you. You're going to want your hematite, your black obsidian, your black tourmaline, smoky quartz, tiger's eye, labradorite. If you got spirits around you, you want garnet. If you got curses being thrown at you, you want bronzite. Stick
Mhm.
with darker stones to start. Okay?
Yeah.
Those help absorb the energy coming into you and keep it off of you. When I first started, I carried around stones all the time. Now I just
Mhm.
freebase. And I have a ton of stones at my place. It feels great.
Yeah.
I don't carry them. I don't carry any
Yeah.
beads. I want to feel everything that's coming in and work with it.
I do
The
still wear a
main,
lot. So at the moment, I've got labradorite, I've got tiger's eye, I've
yeah,
got obsidian, I've got everything. Hematite
I pretty
is
much named
my
everything right
go-to.
around you. Yeah.
You missed my selenite. You missed my fluorite. My, what is
Okay.
that over there?
Fluorite's a good
Lapis,
one.
lavender
Yep.
quartz. Yeah. Lavender
There's
amethyst,
like
that one actually. Yeah.
there's like a next level of stuff where you got
Mm.
your fluorite
Well, that's
and
the
all those
psychic stuff.
kinds that you
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
selenite. You got to have a clear crystal point for battery and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. We won't even get into like the moldavite and stuff like that. That's a
Oh,
whole other
I
trip.
have some. I am very selective of
Oh,
when I wear it. I didn't do a podcast about Moldavite here yet, but I did one in my mediumship group.
yeah.
And I had a very strong notice of, you don't wear that one to the psychic fair. Mm-mm.
Now my moldavite used to give me this, the flush and all that, the moldavite flush, and that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Not
The
that.
other
For
main
me, it's
thing,
like a satellite. I can actually hear people's thoughts. And so it's really disjointing for me,
oh,
because it just amplifies everything. And it's like, oh, too much.
yep,
Too much.
that is too much.
Yeah.
Uh, the the other thing I would recommend for empaths is grounding, grounding,
Yeah.
and more grounding.
Hmm.
Get that energy
Do you
off
have a
you.
favorite?
That is not yours to carry. Until you can learn how to transmute it, get it off.
Yeah.
You want to take walks by big bodies of water,
Hmm.
trees, take a walk in the woods, hug a tree, sit on a big rock. All of that stuff is very good for empaths. If it's a time of year where you can't get outside, look into shower grounding. There's a way you can ground in the shower. Just envision all that water washing that negative down off of you. Earthing, grounding, go on YouTube. There's tons of videos.
Yeah.
Learn it, love it, live it kind of thing. Because that is not your energy to carry. That's other people's. And it sticks to you. Literally sticks to you until you can get it down off. And they'll feel so much better.
Yeah.
I love
Thank you.
The main thing you'll get from like one of my alchemy sessions, you'll get all that negative stuff taken off.
Yeah.
Because I'll super ground you. Because that's what you need first and foremost. And
So just like
you will
an
not believe
energetic
how
reset.
heavy that stuff is. That stuff actually has
I believe
weight.
it.
And you'll feel
I've lived
lighter
it.
after sessions.
Yeah.
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 Yep. And you know what? Reach out. Don't try to go through stuff alone. There's enough mentors out there that can help. When I was going through all my stuff, there's nobody. I have so many people just reaching out to me. I love it that I can help them and do that. And there's so many other healers out there too. My team told me right from the start, people are going to come to me for 1 or 2 sessions of my stuff, and then they're going to see a Reiki person on the regular. That's fine.
Maintenance.
I do crack a lot of people open. You do get a lot of spiritual awakenings. I've had people astral out, come back in, and their gifts are turned on in a 15-minute session. Fantastic. Welcome to the party. Go have fun with that. And they can always reach out.
So what is next for you in terms of your evolution, your growth?
Oh, who knows? I hear telepathy's coming. For me, my clear cognizance is so heightened that it's almost telepathy. It's almost a lot of my readings that I do, spirit is literally just talking through me, instantaneous. I love that. For
That's
me,
very physical mediumship as well.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
For me, if I can believe what they're saying, when I go to do a session, you're literally going to see like green and purple smoke come out of my fingertips, and I'm going to prove to a lot of people this stuff exists. My team actually wants me to get a black backdrop so that when I'm at events, people can see the stuff. So I need to get a good camera. I need to get some of the stuff on video. I'm just enjoying the path, enjoying the journey. I used to have a different mindset and was trying to rush it, and my ego was fighting against cosmic timing, and I had to squash that.
I'm laughing
one
because
of the hardest
I
things
spent at
ever.
least 5 years there.
Taking your ego's timeline and pushing that aside and just be at cosmic timing. Once I did that, all this stuff started opening up for me. It'll come when it's coming.
I think for empaths, that's the hardest, is that feeling, because you can feel the urgency. You can feel the, oh, I know I'm in the right alignment. I feel like I'm ready and it's time to do this work. So countering that, it's just a whole
I heard
other
it's
thing.
coming. I heard it's coming. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? For me, I figured out about 4 or 5 years ago that I can't get mad at anybody. If I get mad at somebody, I'll curse them to no end, because that's a lot of energy flowing through me. And I took my lumps with that. I got mad at somebody one time, and I'm like, fine, you want to be a witch? I threw 1,000 flying monkeys at them from The Wizard of Oz. I said, destroy her, wreck her life. And they pretty much did. But guess what happens when you do that? That stuff comes back. I had an awful week. I had this beautiful Sugalite purple stone that I ordered from India. It's purple and had some orange in it. It turned gray overnight. And I'm like, who's strong enough? Who's powerful enough to curse me like that? Well, guess who? Myself.
That's right.
So I had to go back and energetic clean up all that. There's a couple things. So I've learned to really relax. I don't get mad at anybody. You got to go with all the stuff. You got to let it go. Go with the flow. We're all getting the same messages over and over and over again.
And when you do your
Anything
healing,
that's
you
no
do your
longer
inner
serving
work.
us.
Yeah.
Yep. Tons of shadow work.
But when you do that
oh my God, tons of shadow work.
Yeah.
I was there was like a 6-month period where I was dragging around a little girl in my dreams. And I finally figured out that was my inner child. And I was protecting her and healing her. Oh, I highly recommend going to see a therapist. If you're going through something like this, just helps to talk with somebody. A lot of people thought I was crazy when I was going through my spiritual awakening. As normal, I'm seeing stuff that's not supposed to be here. So I went and saw a therapist, got an eval, and she actually did, this is going to come out in my book sometime too. She did 2 versions. She did the whitewashed one, that was the official one, and then she did the flat out, this is what's going on one. Because we have to be like that in this society, and we shouldn't have to be like that. These people aren't crazy. They're actually seeing stuff. They're actually hearing thought forms and hearing voice. They're literally, they're saying they're hearing voices, they're hearing voices. And it's usually the dark side. Well, that'll be a whole nother podcast. But the joke is, people thought I was crazy, so I had to go see a therapist. You know how many therapists I see now? You know how many mental health workers? They come to me as clients because they absorb that negative energy all the time. So it helps them to get that cleared off. So I see a ton of therapists. I see a ton of nurses, and I love doing that.
First responders,
First responders, other healers. I was told right from the start that I was going to heal the healers so that they can go out and continue doing their work. So I never use the P word, power. I never use that word. That word signifies ego. And if you're trying to have power over somebody, it's got to be over somebody. My team likes to use the word strength. I want to have enough strength that I can help a healer go back to doing what they're doing, or have enough strength to take the hit for somebody. That's the way I like to look at this. So I've intentionally made my energy body as big as it can be. And it's just getting bigger. And like you said, it's just like a black hole. And I love that. I love that I can do that for people. That's it in a nutshell. Yep. These are gifts. And my team has been adamant. Take your ego out of it because these gifts can be taken away. So everybody needs to remember
I've seen that.
Yep.
I've seen that
a lot. If it doesn't happen this lifetime, it can happen in the next lifetime too. Anybody that's out there not using these right can have them taken away. They are gifts. Oh, my team was at.
What is next or coming up for you?
We're coming into the busy season. I love doing the psychic fairs and all that. Be specific. My first psychic fair that's coming up, I'm at Kahaniat Hotel in Kahaniat Lake, PA, April 13th and 14th. That's a fun paranormal fair. That old building just has a fun, playful, paranormal stuff going on. Right after that, I'm teaching the empath class at a place called Little Shop of Lilith in Butler. That is Wednesday, April 17th. At the same place, I'm teaching my first class on removing the parasites. That'll be on May 8th, and that's also at Little Shop of Lilith. I'm at the Butler Paranormal Fair on April 27th. And then I'm at one of my favorite places to go to, Hillview Manor, down in Newcastle, PA, for their psychic fair on June 1st. And all those are listed on your blog. They're on my Facebook page. I keep them pinned right at the top of my personal page. I love those kind of things. You get me down to Butler Paranormal Fair where it's Bigfoots and aliens. I'm like a kid in a candy store for that one. I walked in and I'm like, oh, these are my people.
I
It's
would
just
really
Bigfoot and
like to bring
aliens
my
all over.
I'd really like to bring my spouse to that one because I'm fairly certain he has a past life as an ET, as a
Oh,
Yeti. Yeti is an ET, and that's why we don't see them. I've had them come through in past life regressions, and they are masters at opening and closing portals and travel.
portals.
So, of course, we don't see them. They're able to pop in and out. But I would love
My,
to bring my spouse because every now and then I can see it in his energy, and I flat out call him, and I'm like, ah, Yeti. And now he's at the point where he's just like, you know what? They are my people.
yeah. Um, I have alien abduction as a child multiple times. I
Really?
about pulled right through the
Oh,
wall, portal. Something about our
yeah.
bloodline. One of our
Mm,
bloodlines, where my family is descendants of like Scottish royalty,
mm.
cousins to Mary Queen of Scots kind of thing. I think it's the Stuarts. There's multiple things of alien abduction in our family that I'm not allowed to talk about. But
Mm.
mine, I got abducted as a
Maybe in your
kid.
book.
Oh, in my book, I will. When I
Yeah.
was like 13 or 14 playing football, I had terrible acne and I went to pinch it one time and a tracker came
Mm.
out. Looked like a shark's tooth. You
Mm.
could tell it was biological. Even
Yeah.
at that age, I knew what that was. I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
tracker. That's
Yeah.
somewhere in my stuff in a little pill bottle.
Mm.
Um, I basically see aliens all the time. I have a little
I'm
alien
surprised
guy
you
that
were
guards the
able to
doors.
keep it. Because a
Yeah,
lot of times when clients have that in QHHT, they don't get to keep it.
no,
It disintegrates, it falls apart, it disappears, it just
yep.
disapparates. Yeah,
And I even said at the
and
time,
you still have it.
try to track me now. I took it out. They know where we're at.
They
There's
always know.
they get a little bell
Yeah,
or something when I go to do a
yeah,
session. And they always astral in.
yeah. And most of the time, they are our people, and that's why they always know.
Yep.
It's not,
Uh,
at least that's
some
what
of the
comes through in
sessions,
sessions. Yeah.
my hands have been
Mm.
glowing white and blue, and I know that's the
Mm.
Arcturians helping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these races are all trying to help us. Oh, and the Sasquatch are definitely interdimensional. My team has
Mhm.
confirmed that. They said they're
Yeah.
like the Fae
Yeah.
kind of thing, go in
Yeah.
and out. So
Mhm.
that's kind of cool. Somebody else has got the same message.
Well, no, it was a past life regression session. And
Oh,
in that session, she was some type of wizard. And it was back during the times when over at Stonehenge, the portal was actually open and active. And it was time for them to leave because the time of magic was ending. And so they had to bring people through the portal. And that's when the Yetis and the Bigfoots came. They came to open the portals. Everybody got onto a ship. It was an interesting past life.
oh,
She had sacred knowledge that she had saved as a wizard in a tree trunk. I have the best time doing the work that I do.
oh.
It's never a dull moment.
I
But that
wonder if I
moment
was there
that
for
she
that.
was explaining Yeti, I was like, yes, that makes sense.
I know I
And
was a
my spouse,
druid. I
yeah.
know I was a druid back at Stonehenge at some point. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved in
Mm-hmm.
all the big stuff. Egypt with the pyramids, Stonehenge. I did do a past life regression one time, and one of my past lives on an alien planet came up. And for the vision,
Mm-hmm.
we had just landed on another planet, and I'm standing on a cliff with my crew overlooking this valley. And I was so disappointed. And the hypnotist was like, "Why are you disappointed?" I'm like, "There's no life. We're looking for a new planet that can sustain life because ours is dying." And
Yeah.
she goes, "Can you see what you look like?" And I said, "No, we're wearing some kind of suits." I'm like, "Hold on. The ship is shiny. I'll look in the ship." And I turned and I said, "I got blue and green scales." She goes, "I knew you were going to say blue and green scales." I was one of the lizard
Mm-hmm.
people. And that's just kind of, neat because I know I was on a water planet. So did I pick up the tentacles on a water planet? Or? So all this stuff is a big puzzle. And there's no straight answers. Everything's a riddle. So you have to figure out all this stuff.
But everything at its time, and it's not because I can put a client into regression, but if you told them everything at once, they would melt down. So the subconscious will only release it in digestible portions.
Yep.
And thank goodness that we have those safety mechanisms in place.
Oh yeah, because the amount of stuff I know at this point, if that was all given to me at once, I'd
No.
be in a mental hospital with my arms wrapped around me like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody, that it trickled in. And that's one of these things that people have to be with themselves. They have to be very patient as this starts to happen.
Yeah.
And they have to be very forgiving of themselves. That's one of the things I like to tell people. You know, baby steps. Baby steps.
It's always deeper than we can see it on the surface.
Yeah.
And we only see the surface, so we're impatient, but we don't see that full bigger picture until later. And then we look back and hindsight's 2020. So then it's like, oh, I was learning this, I was implementing that. This was
Yep.
evolving. This part of my shadow was healing. This part of my higher self was integrating. Yeah, it's and then when we look back, you're like, oh, that's why it took all that time to integrate and evolve.
Yep. Like all those years of battling the paranormal have prepared me. Like, okay, I was doing a session on this little 11-year-old girl. Little 11-year-old girl. Didn't know she had trauma in her past. Something came off of her and attacked me during the session, and I had to handle it, which I did. And it was just surprising for it to come off a little 11-year-old girl. But then I found out she had trauma in her past. She was a little baby witch. She was doing little spells for her friends. You know,
Yep.
all that stuff's okay, but know what you're doing first, because it gave her an attachment. Well,
I had grown men come
that.
in and have to clean up some things because even though they thought they knew what they were doing, they weren't, and they made a big mess. Thankfully, I was able to get them through it, but
hey,
there's always more
that's what
to
we're here
it
to do.
as we practice. Yeah.
So keep playing with the Ouija boards, people. My number's right down there.
Right. That's right. He didn't even actually, but still.
Hey,
it was enough.
I had a Ouija board.
Took us an hour to clean it up.
I had a Ouija board when I was a kid and to play with it by myself, and had multiple portals in my house. And yeah, I know. But that was meant to be.
That. Well, thank you so much for coming today, for spending time and sharing your origins, your story, your wisdom and learning. It's been so fun.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. Such an honor to be here. My first podcast.
Well, yeah. Let's plan a time to do it again, and anything you want to come and share, I'm sure the audience would be happy to explore it and see themselves in it as well. I know there are now going to be some empaths out there who know that they might be an arc empath in this moment, or maybe they will find themselves being a sin eater and finally have a sense of who they are because you shared your story.
Yeah, I hope it explains a little bit, like a little piece of their puzzle. Because that's what these are. It's a big puzzle, and you get a piece here, you get a piece there. I didn't even know I was a sin eater empath until I was because for the longest time I thought I was like a shaman, but I'm not a shaman this life. So I was talking to this lady at a psychic fair, and she goes, "Oh, you're a sin eater empath." I'm like, "What?" Then I was down the rabbit hole. Yep, and that's how this happens when it's supposed to happen, and hopefully that helps a lot of people, because at the end of the day, we are supposed to be helping each other. That's it.
Yeah. This is going to be somebody's rabbit hole.
Yep. Oh, I hope so.
And that's why I do it.
And they can always reach out to either one of us. And I greatly appreciate you, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you. So let's plan to do it again soon. And
Absolutely.
Soulful Seekers, thank you for listening and being here. And if you've got questions for Daron, put them on the bottom of the blog, or not the blog post, but put them in the episode notes. and I will get the questions to Daron, and maybe we can come back and tackle those again. But
Oh,
if
I'd
you're
love
looking for
to.
Daron, I will. Yeah, that'd be fun. I will put all of his contact info in the show notes for you so you know exactly where to find him. So if you'd like to, you can email Daron directly or pop onto his Facebook page. All
Sounds
right,
good.
everybody. Bright blessings. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Your stories matter. I would love to hear them and from you. Connect on our website, healingbeyondtrauma.com, or drop me an email at amanda@healingbeyondtrauma.com. Remember, healing is a journey we take together. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired. This is Amanda, wishing you bright blessings.